So I wanted to make a video about deadlock items, and the first idea that came to my mind was, what items do players usually ignore? So I've noticed that players usually, from the community, build tab and default build usually just go left to right. And I wanted to make a video that spotlights some of the lesser bot items by the player base. This video takes into context the big patch of 6th of March and the smaller but also significant patch of 21st of March. The first item on the list is Fortitude. So this item did get buffed by getting its time to regen reduced by 13 to 10 seconds. What this means is that if you have this item, you basically never need to go back to base. You can just wait 10 seconds and you're just gonna heal a lot of your HP back, which means that you don't need to go back to base to buy items or heal. You can just go to the side shops, which I know that a lot of players like just moving around the map. So this item is definitely good for that now. And it also gives move speed, which is again a very valuable stat if you're not gonna buy Juggernaut or any of the stamina items. To be fair, I was thinking of a different item, but then I changed my mind. With the smaller patch, they actually did changes to the investment tree for the vitality category, which means that instead of being flat number, it's now a HP percentage base. So what this means, it means that the value of Fortitude, because it gives a flat number, is increased because percentages scale better with flat numbers rather than flat numbers with themselves. So having Fortitude does inherently make you much tankier than it did in the prior patch. All in all, this item is very underutilized. I don't see it bought often in my matches. I do think a lot of characters can find a spot in their item builds for it. I don't think you're crippling yourself by buying it as a green item compared to the other green items, so you should definitely give it a try. The next one is Heroic Ore. Now this item is weird. This item gives very good stats, but I think there's kind of a stigma towards it because people assume it's for support, which I don't agree with that. It's good if you're buying more into utility, but I do think it being in the gun category, in the weapon category, as a tier 3 item, it gives a lot of value. The difference is that it's conditional value. So I think there is an inherent fear that it doesn't give that much value. So what does the item do? The item provides bullet resist to all friendly units for a set amount of time, says 7 seconds, every 25 seconds that you press the button. So here's the thing, it already gives sprint speed as a passive effect, which already is good. It's in the gun category, which means that it gives you a DPS increase, and on activation it gives you fire rate and even more move speed. So inherently speaking, this item has a lot of value. Like, there is a lot of stat value in this item. I think the problem with this item is that I've always thought that people were just afraid of active items, but I think that's not really the case. I think the problem is people just read ore and they just assume it doesn't give them inherently any value. That's a very like MMO RPG kind of mentality, which I don't think exists for this item. This item just gives a lot of values. It also allows you to push to sub lanes easier because all of the bonuses, the movement speed and the fire rate and the bullet resist by just being near people, it's also given to the troopers, so you can create a very big sub lane with this item. It's kind of cheap. Tier 3 for so much stats, I don't think you should give it a try. I have because I'm very precise with, not precise, but I'm very I want to back up my claims. So I've put in a couple characters here that I think fit well. Graves does suffer from poor mobility, and she does need fire rate, so the item is perfect on her. But not only that, it also benefits her gameplay style with her ult and her last upgrade for her too, because the zombies also can inherit the effect when the item is activated. Billy is weird. I do think this item is, out of all of these characters here, the item is most slept on Billy, because you can actually fit this item in both like gun build for Billy and spirit build, because it does give so much of the stats Billy needs in the early game in the mid game, that I do think that this is actually, out of all of these characters yet, I do think this is the most underutilized on him. Ivy Ivy is weird. I think Ivy is just good because it fits her kit and the items she buys in general. Mirage is weird. I remember people buying the item for him in the past. They kind of stopped buying it when the Mirage rework came, and I haven't seen anyone buy him anymore. I did think to remove him from here, but I do feel like he still can benefit from it, especially if he ever gets more nerfs to his spirit builds. And Silver just needs somehow to chase in her wolf form. You can always buy the stamina item, the tier 3 stamina item, but you can also not rush it and instead buy heroic ore. It gives you all stats you need, it fits with your wolf form, it makes you tankier in your wolf form if they have a high gun items, high gun teams. So I just think it's a very underutilized item. You should probably give it a try and tell me about it if it goes well. The next item is Radiant Regeneration. Now, here's the thing with Radiant Regeneration. This item got very buffed. It increased the bonus health, which inherently gives a lot of value to spirit characters that want to be in your face. And they also increase the healing on it. Now, here's the thing. This item is not very situational, depending on the enemy team, but it depends on your character. Before the buffs, it was only bought on Geist because of her third ability, because you can easily proc it because of the low cooldown. But after the buffs, I do think it's very good on Yamato. Yamato can benefit a lot from Radiant Regeneration because she can proc it easy with her ult and her third ability. Actually, there's a lot of burst healing you can get on Yamato with her third ability, and Yamato already has a very frontliner style of playing, and I do think this item is really good on her. I buy it every time I'm on Yamato just because there is inherently so much value in this item in the early game to mid game, specifically on Yamato, that I think is very much slept on because people continue to buy Torment Pulse on her as her first tier 3 item. For Celeste, it goes without saying, her kiting abilities and her third ability just fit very well into this item. She can get a lot of value from the health regeneration and the healing on ability cast. It's because her third is a charge and the radiant regeneration is only 6 seconds. It just fits with her. I wouldn't say it's a mandatory item like I think is on Yamato, but you do have situations where this is like the best item for her. Next one is Victor. I think with Victor it kind of goes without saying. The combination of Radiant Regeneration and his second ability is next to none in the game. He already suffers from a somewhat poor early game, so this just makes them easier to pick up fights in the early game and survive. Because as a Victor, you're just gonna die in the early game, especially when they nerfed the aura, the range of the aura, so it's kind of difficult to really get the most amount of life steal from it. But with Radiant Regeneration, you really don't need to. You just need to hit like a couple people with it, like 2 or 3. Like 2 is also really good. And yeah, you don't you this item's really good on him. Uh, yeah, I think you should buy it on him. Now, is it mandatory? Now, it's weird because again, when you have such a bad early game with Victor, you kind of need to build straight into your build, or uh, you risk ruining the early to mid game to your team. So I don't know. I do think there's a lot of potential in this item. I do believe that if you're maybe doing some kind of hybrid build where you're buying the kinetic dash into cultist, you could fit this item much better because you're just getting so much early game value because of those items. You should probably try it at least a couple matches. You should probably give it a try. Warpstone. This has always been the most underutilized item in the game, I feel. A lot of high MMR builds have it, but I've noticed that people just straight up ignore it. What you do, you basically teleport 11 meters in front of you, and you gain bullet resist on teleportation, 30% bullet resist actually. It's a conditional buff that lasts for 6 seconds. Now here's the thing with this item. This item is not as scary as it looks. This is a very straightforward item. You click the item, you teleport. The thing is, this item is objectively better than bullet resistance. Bullet resistance is just a flat stick, a stat stick, which means that it's a stat stick that you have it without any other benefits. Warpstone gives you a blinks, gives you almost the same bullet resistance, but it's conditional. Now the thing about conditional passive effects and just passive effects is that bullet resilience doesn't do anything on its own. Warpstone gives you a blink. When you're in a team fight, the bullet resistance is irrelevant. Bullet resilience is irrelevant because compared to Warpstone, you're gonna use Warpstone in a team fight. So you're already getting the passive bullet resist. So you're buying bullet resilience. You're getting a stat stick item that you might not get a lot of value of, and there might only be one gun item or 2 gun characters in the enemy team. So essentially buying a tier 3 stat stick item that you might not get value of for the majority of the match unless there is a team fight, and even then in a team fight Warpstone is better because it gives almost the same stat. A team fight is not gonna go for so long that bullet resilience pays for itself. Warpstone can pay for itself very early on without even ever getting the benefit of the bullet resist. Dynamo can Warpstone into the first ability. Abrams can Warpstone with his second ability and guarantee a Charleston. Last goes without saying, it's really good for ults. Geist for her ult and not tracking but chasing down. And Victor is really good, again, to not invest in bullet resilience but buy an item that both gives him bullet resilience and bullet resistance and allow him to easier hit his first ability, which is one of his main ways to sustain a fight. So this is about Warpstone. Next item, Reactive Barrier. So I never see this item bought anywhere. Nobody recommends this, nobody talks about it. I do believe this is the most underutilized, underappreciated tier 2 items in the game. It gives you 6% spirit resist, which is already a good stat in the early game, and every 40 seconds it restores 1 stamina and gives you a barrier when you're movement locked, which means stunned, stained, immobilized, or slept. The shield is 1325 plus multiplied 2.1 spirit. Okay, here's the thing. Shields in these kind of games are basically bonus health. In the early game, stat health flat health is the best stat to survive. Reactive Barrier gives Spirit Resist, gives essentially bonus health, and that bonus health scales by 2 times with Spirit, which means that it even scales better if you're a Spirit character into the mid game. But not only that, even if you're not a Spirit character, you're probably gonna buy one or two Spirit items, which gives even more value to Reactive Barrier. Like I've put in a picture. If you get charged by A-bombs in the early game, this is how much bonus health you get, essentially. This means that you can't get killed by melee, melee in the example of A-bombs, but you don't get killed in the early game in a stun lock or like in a stun. Like, this is completely underutilized by players. I don't see anyone buying it. I don't see pro players buying it. I don't see high MMR players buying it. I don't see solo queue players buying it. Nobody buys it. But this item can save you in the early game. It can completely counter a lane snowball, so to say. And that's about it. Thank you for watching my video. Deadlock has incredible items, one of the most fun items in the genre, and you should try them out. They're really fun. You should not feel bad experimenting, and have fun. Hope I see you in New York. Bye.